Hey dolls, welcome back to your Royal BFF, the People's Duchess. How's it going? Happy Tuesday. Hope you guys are well. I want to get right into today's video. We've had this very interesting week, right? We've had this week of Thomas Markle acting a whole allegedly legless fool in the Philippines. We've had very interesting commentary from Meghan's once tormentors, current tormentors, but they all seem to be coming to the same conclusion that this was a skosh too far. Calling Carolyn Graham, the pictures, all of it was just too much. And that surprised me to some degree. I'm not going to give them the credit for that because that is a human reaction. And I was shocked only at the idea that they had any humanity left. And it's really telling that even scumbags like these are looking down on Thomas Markle. I was expecting an onslaught of demonizing, even more pile-on, even more pretending that Thomas deserves a chance. But even the tabbiest of tabloids are not going for it. They're all asking aloud why Carolyn Graham was called. They're all asking aloud why he would post that picture, which is sad but humiliating for him more than anything else. I don't yet hear anyone pretending like this is okay. I don't hear anyone saying Thomas did the right thing and how terrible Meghan is over this, yada yada, especially because she does appear to have actually tried to make contact. I'm hearing some reports that she's calling around or that she sent a consulate over to him and he wasn't there. I'm hearing a lot of things, which I don't believe any of. Y'all know my stance. If a colonizer said it, I need to confirm. Before I believe anything, I need to confirm with my own two eyes. I don't believe anything I hear third party, especially in this situation. Dude, either gimp out there legless or it didn't happen. I don't believe that he even lost a limb, to be honest with you. It's all quite unfortunate. The timing was not coincidental either, and it adds to the feeling of no regrets, right? I feel nothing. If he did lose his leg, I still feel nothing, and I shouldn't. I mean, he's a stranger to me, but I have compassion for anybody who's gone through a tough situation, any elderly person that's facing the end of life complications that he appears to be having, but not in this case. I'm not even sorry about that. I can't stress it enough. You do not owe anyone your suffering. It isn't your God-given right to colonize people and abuse them and own them as your slaves. And if that's the case, and it is your God-given right, then why has your God forsaken you? Why aren't you allowed to colonize anymore? Why aren't you allowed to own slaves anymore? What happened? When in the 1800s did God change his mind on the whole colonizing and slavery? Quickly. I'm a fan of the podcast touching on these concepts of absolute control, which is what we're dealing with Harry's father and brother, who want that absolute control and obedience from him. And then there's Thomas, who manipulates for that emotional control of Meghan. It's such a good podcast for the times. A pretty groundbreaking episode. For me, it was such a raw and real and intriguing conversation. But what I found even more surprising than the conversation itself, was the response to Oprah. Specifically, a lot of creators are out here saying that she's jealous. She wants us to suffer because she had to. And I had to go back and rewatch it because where did they get that? Where did they conclude that from? Like, show me the clip that told you that she was jealous and wanted other people to suffer. Because this is what I heard.
Yes, we are here in New York City with a live audience of our listeners. Hello, New York. Hello, New York. Hello, New York. So maybe you all can relate in some way to this growing phenomenon known as going no contact. That's when a person cuts off ties to someone in their family. A Cornell University study now shows that almost 1/3 of Americans are actively estranged from a family member. That is incredible to me. I want to ask a few people in our audience to help us understand what that means. So Bristol, go ahead.
I have been no contact with my entire family for a year and a half now.
No contact.
No contact.
Not a phone call, not a text, not a nothing.
Nothing.
For a year and a half now. Okay. Chris, how about you?
It's been 4 years since I've had contact with my parents and my siblings.
4 years. Not a word.
Not a word.
Okay. And Kendall?
I've been no contact with my 30-year-old son for 2 years.
By your choice?
By choice.
Okay. So some experts believe that there's been a shift in how younger generations protect their mental health and their boundaries, or have an expanded view of what is considered abuse. And that has led to a silent epidemic. So social media has millions of videos with the hashtag no contact from adult children who say that their parent or their sibling is toxic and they've had enough. So what is going on? So we gathered leading experts, and people with different experiences and points of view on this issue, including parents whose adult children have cut them off. And we'll hear from other adult children who chose to go no contact with their parents. I know this is a tender, hot button topic. My hope is that we can open up the heart space and really listen. I'm not on anybody's side. I just want to hear what everyone has to say.
So she starts it off saying that she's not on anyone's side. She's just here to listen. She's just here to learn, educate herself. She's gathered all the researchers, the therapists, the people who have been affected. They can tell their stories. All the best people to discuss this are in the room, and she's there to learn from them. And then regarding her own struggles, she said that back in the day, this is how we had to endure. We had to just take it because that was very much true back then. And it was that context, that important piece of background information that leads me to believe that people are deliberately misconstruing what she said. Why would you take something that she said that she experienced in her own life and then turn it into her saying that about everyone should also experience that?
How's your life otherwise? Do you miss the contact with them? Or have you been able to create a life that's full and vibrant without them?
I love my life.
Okay.
I have 5 animals. So I've created my own family. When I went off to college, I am used to spending holidays alone. So it's not like much has changed. I'm just not being walked all over, actually. So I know peace for the first time. It's amazing. I felt my nervous system leave fight or flight, and
I think this is so fascinating to me because I've been doing this so long. And I remember in the early days doing this, people just suffered. They just went through hell with their parents, and we were always talking about relationships with your parents. Have you, as therapists, seen it evolve over the years also?
Oh, absolutely.
So that's the context. That is the specific context by which Oprah said that in this podcast. You also have to include the context of who she is and her upbringing. Oprah is a woman who had a horrific upbringing, had parents who did not care, parents who did atrocious things, parents who turned a blind eye to the horrific abuse that she was facing at the hands of the relatives in her family. So that is the context by which she is speaking. Stay and suffer that abuse because there were no real support systems for Black girls back then, or run away, which she did at 14. That's the context. They did have to grin and bear it back then. When did she say that everyone should do that? When did she say, oh, you kids these days aren't taking it like we did and I don't like that? When did she say any of that? All she did was speak her truth. All she did was say, this happened to be my set of circumstances and that of my society back when I was growing up, back when I was dealing with this in my youth. When did it become, you should also deal with this with your parents and not cut them off because that's what I did? Quickly, I want to get into one of my favorite segments of this podcast when she spoke to the hospice nurse. That hospice nurse put her up on game, and Oprah listened, I feel, the most intently during this conversation. 2 things can be true at once. You can reconcile with your parent or a estranged relative because maintaining no contact was too hard or just not right for you, and also admire people who stick to their boundaries and maintain no contact for themselves. I think she really admires this about the Sussexes. And I think she really admired this about the conversation with the hospice nurse.
What an interesting thing. You're putting these estranged children with their dying parents, but it's not that at all. In most
Not
cases,
always.
in most cases, they don't, right? They say, no, I don't want to see them. Has anybody expressed, regret or grief that they were estranged from their adult children?
I did have one person in particular I think of that really told me that they had a lot of regrets and they wanted to make amends. And I did, with our social worker, make that phone call to the child and asked if they wanted to hear them out and give them that chance. They went really back and forth. They ultimately decided not to. So what myself and the social worker did is we offered for that patient to write a letter to the child. And we said, after you pass, we'll make sure that they get it. We can't promise that they'll read it. And the patient decided to not write that letter.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You told my team that you think that this is oftentimes a form of control on the part of the parents. Yeah.
I do, yes.
Yeah. You now are estranged from your biological father.
Yes.
Why? Can we ask?
I say it's a million cuts that bled me dry. And I could give you one reason, but I think that it wouldn't reflect the entirety of the situation. And I think that someone would judge that one situation and say that wasn't enough of a reason. And in reality, it wasn't just that. It was a million things before that led up to that.
Yeah. It sounds like it's never one thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got the distinct impression from this interaction that Oprah was fascinated by the things that she had to say about how people react to estranged parents at the end of their lives. And I don't know about you, but during this conversation, I couldn't help thinking about Thomas Markle and how he's going about it. He probably feels, death knocking at his door. And instead of trying to make amends and be a better person and leave this world and his relationship with his children in better shape than it currently is, his thing is to go out with one last shameful hurrah. And look, I'm no funeral director, all right? Far be it from me to tell you how to die. But certainly, a more logical person would have gotten their affairs in order rather than hitting the final self-destruct button. And one of the other things that I really loved in this podcast is that she gave the parents a platform as well. She was really balanced and well-rounded in the conversation. She made sure that both sides were represented. And I do want to get into this mother who went no contact with her son. She asked a great question, the question that the British media tries to gaslight Meghan with, and the great answer that she got, I hadn't even considered until now.
Why are parents always demonized when they speak their truths or when they make a conscious decision to go no contact, but estranged children are celebrated and rallied behind?
Good question. Who wants to answer that?
If someone was coming in to see me as their therapist, I'm listening for what that person's experience is. And I have had parents come in whose children are asking for money, or they're making the parent feel morally obligated to give them exactly what they want. It's the emotional immaturity switched, okay? I mean, you don't have to be the parent or the adult child to be emotionally immature. And so whatever it is that is crossing the boundary of the relationship or the other person's right to their own life or to their right to say no, I mean, that has to be dealt with every time in order to keep your own stability and mental health. So I see it very much as going both ways. Whoever it is that's going across the boundary and saying, you have to give me what I need because I'm the most important person in the relationship here, in effect, whether that's parent or child, that has to be addressed, and it's for your own mental health. But I just wanted to mention that, societally and culturally, what we're all up against is that everybody has tremendous stress in dealing with a very complex world now. I mean, this is not the world of 30 years ago even. The things that adult children are having to think about, weigh, succeed in are very different, and it's very, very stressful. We don't have the energy to put into relationships where someone is going to be continually pushing back and making us feel that what is going on inside us is not valid or is not true in some way. This old way of the respect for the role itself, I think, for the role of the parent or the authority figure.
Honor thy father and thy mother.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it says honor them. It doesn't say obey them, agree with them, do whatever they say, make them the most important person in the relationship. So those days of the role trumping everything else are gone. People do not have the energy now to sustain a relationship that is draining or difficult or constantly conflictual. They do not have the energy to keep on maintaining that and live this very complex life.
I think it's a very interesting thing you just said, the days of the role being the almighty in the relationship, because it's not about the role, it really is about the relationship.
And that's what's happening to these poor parents, because they're thinking that there is some security there for them in the role, okay?
Yes.
But what has happened is that...
And that's what people mean when they say, oh, she's your only mother, that's your only one. They're talking about the role. You actually haven't had a relationship with a mother who mothered you.
Yeah, it shifted from the role to relationship skills and to empathy and to understanding the other person's subjective experience. There has been a ground shift in that. That's not going to go backwards. People are not going to become less aware and less conscious of their own inner experience. The ship has sailed. And so we have to find ways of understanding that our kids are stressed, they're exhausted in this very complex society. They don't have a lot of extra energy to work stuff out with you. And so you have to, if you want to get along or regain the relationship, you have to treat them like a treasured friend. Like, how would you keep a friend that you wanted to keep? A cherished person. That's how you have to treat them, because they're exhausted.
You'll have to improve the relationship skills.
Yes. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to say. That if the relationship skills have to take the place
you have to do that and not use the I'm your mother, I'm your father, and so automatically you should give me whatever.
Yes, exactly. But see, nobody comes along and tells the parent, you have to undergo this shift, and you have to understand now that it's going to be the quality of the relationship and the empathy that's going to count. Nobody told them that. Everybody's being caught unaware by that.
Well, I agree with all that.
Really important points that even the trashiest British media personality has picked up on and echoed. It's not okay for a parent to continually over and over and over again cross the same boundary, stab at the same wound, rip off the same healing scars. Like, it's not okay. Even they recognize that this is a person who does not love his child for whatever reason, does not love his child enough to stop harming her. They recognize it as harm. The language that they're using around the dogpiling on Meghan is quite carefully constructed, but they recognize the harm that Thomas is deliberately inflicting on Meghan. In all these years of them interviewing him, I'm sure that they've asked him flat out, what was the thing that Meghan did to you that caused you to do this to her, that causes you to have so much vitriol towards her? I'm sure they have asked him flat out. And let me know if you know the answer to that. I have never once heard Thomas say, Meghan did this thing to me. It hurt me so bad, and that's why I turned against her like this. I have, however, heard him say this.
A setup. I was set up by a guy named Jeff Rayner and another guy named Dylan Howard, who was with American Media, I think. And the whole thing was a plan to actually mess up the wedding. I was just part of it.
So please point out to me, between days before he was still supposed to walk her down the aisle until the day that he faked that first heart attack, what did she do? What did she do to him in the span of what, a week? to make him turn 35 years at that point of being a good father to this child into so much vitriol, into so much hostility. What happened in those hours that made him do what he has done and what he's continued to do for the last 8 years? I'll wait. So Oprah showed so much grace, so much compassion, so much understanding, and more than anything, a willingness to listen, which is half the battle, trying to get your parents to listen to you, right? Oprah is the GOAT of journalism because she's always willing to learn. And moreover, she is someone who would say what she needs to say when she needs to say it. She's not going to pull a Sydney Sweeney. She's not going to use flowery or coded language to avoid discussing a topic directly. And that's what really had me in a twist about that Harper's Bazaar interview, because Oprah would have asked Meghan on the spot, "You seem really impressed by this. Are you really impressed by this? Are you impressed with yourself?" She wouldn't have minded asking those tough questions because that's just who Oprah is. She is one of the best out there to do this. Her and Barbara Walters, I love so much their journalistic style because they'll ask you to your face, not like that Harper's Bazaar lady did after the fact. She's asking America why Meghan seemed impressed with herself. Why you ain't ask Meghan when you were there if she was impressed with herself? I don't like that. So I feel like people are deliberately misconstruing what Oprah said because it's part of a larger agenda, for one, to demonize Oprah and Black women in general, but also because hate sells. The clicks on rage bait, race bait, it can be quite lucrative. They see the notoriety and views that having very contrarian, very racist, very terrible takes on hot button subjects garners you, or can garner you. And with people who have nothing else to live for, I mean, why not? And you know it to be a contrarian standpoint because if you turn around and give them even a fraction of the critique and pile-on that they give to Meghan and Harry, they instantly get indignant. They instantly feel enraged that you are talking negatively about them. So there's no way they can think it's okay for them to do the same thing to another person. They do this for the clicks, for the money, and in a lot of cases, sadly, for the human interaction. Because let's be real, this is the only human contact a lot of these people get. I can't imagine anybody cuddling up to Angela Blobfish Levin at the end of the day. It's just not happening. And look, I have a bachelor's in psychology. I dedicated a large portion of my life to understanding the human mind and how we function in various scenarios, but I will never understand the cognitive dissonance it takes to be one of these people. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you for joining me. I appreciate you sticking around for this tough topic. Hit that like, share, and subscribe.